Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS show with John Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FANation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Game Day Playbook show. We got 4 games here on a Thursday evening, a little Thursday game before the in-season tournament returns on Friday. I'm on your playbook. We got that mostly out for all of you available to go check and get ready for tonight's slate. 7 p.m. Eastern time is the tip-off. Detroit, Charlotte kicking things off. And then we have the 10:30 game included. You got to wait 2.5 hours for the last game of the night to kick off. Very interesting Orlando Lakers matchup here as we look at some of the ownership, and we'll talk about that here today. No Contavious Caldwell-Pope, and yet nobody seems to be playing a guy that James and I are higher on than most. You also have to worry about LeBron and Anthony Davis in that late slate as well, as 2 guys that can bring you back if you're stacking the late night hammer. So we got that. We got Detroit, Charlotte, Minnesota, Toronto, maybe a returning Scottie Barnes here, and Utah, San Antonio, where everybody is looking to play tonight. No Victor Wembanyama, no Devin Vassell, no Jordan Clarkson tonight in that game there. No Walker Kessler, obviously, as well. He's missing the last few games, but a ton of value available in Utah, San Antonio today. Should be a pretty fun slate here, James. What are your feelings on things?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun slate. Everyone's playing one game, right? There's not a lot of ownership elsewhere other than Utah, San Antonio. Like, you'll find bits and pieces everywhere, but when you look at the top of the ownership leaderboard here, it's mostly 2 teams. So there's, 2 sides to that coin. The first is you need a lot of exposure to it. The second is, how can I get different? Now, like, not the best games on the board to get different with. I think there are teams specifically that are coming in lower owned that shouldn't be, and we'll talk about that when we go when we break down position by position. But like, it's not as if like Utah, San Antonio, the only reason that like people are getting there is because players are out. It's not like that game is significantly better than every other game. Like, Detroit has a really good matchup against a bad defense. Mm-hmm. That game has 221 implied points, but they're healthy, right? So not a lot of people are going there. Minnesota, Toronto, I don't think anyone knows what to do with Toronto because the impending return of Scottie Barnes is just kind of like throwing a lot of the price tags of everyone else is still right, as if he's not. And then Minnesota's hard to predict. We don't know statuses of guys there.
Right, and then Orlando may not play, and so
yeah, and even shocker, right? Mike Conley, 37 and 30 minutes the last 2 games, and suddenly he's on the injury report. It's like, maybe we should have, gotten mid-20s minutes.
Right.
And then the late night hammer, the Lakers they look great offensively, and the Magic had looked great lately. They had won a bunch of games in a row, but now it's second leg of a back-to-back for the Magic. It is a really tough spot for the Lakers. The Magic are second in defensive rating on the year, and they're also playing really slow. They're 25th in pace.
Yeah.
So, I understand why one game is chalkier than the other, but you definitely have to figure out ways to be a little contrarian tonight because that game, Utah, San Antonio, 224 implied points. That's lower than Minnesota, Toronto. Almost even with Detroit, Charlotte. So, interesting slate. A lot of guys out in that game. A lot of ownership in that game. Got to find ways to be different on these smaller slates.
Yep. I think also important to note that no team here playing tonight is on a back-to-back or front leg of a back-to-back. Like, no one's playing tomorrow. So, if you're worried about any sort of front leg restrictions, nothing there. As you mentioned, though, Orlando is on a back-to-back here second night. So, we'll see. And we know Contavious Caldwell-Pope already ruled out for this game. Maybe we get Wendell Carter Jr. back. There has been some reports. He was questionable yesterday. He is questionable again here today. So maybe we see the return there. Appreciate you guys all tuning in. Jeff popping in, say howdy. Jacob Bowers popping in, saying let the green continue to flow. Yeah, we had a big night. Hey, Grande, congrats to you, sir. takedowns last night, the $12 and $5 single.
Thank you.
Got the win there. Nice low rostered $3,000 Austin Reeves. Antonio Reeves coming. Austin Reeves on tonight. Antonio Reeves
plays tonight. Yep, for sure.
Antonio Reeves last night coming through for you big time there. So congrats on your wins. And I know our Discord, a couple of screenshots in there as well from subscribers who had some nice nights. So we'll keep the green flowing, as Bauer said. Faisal popping in saying greetings here. Chris always chasing the big payouts over on FanDuel. We'll get you those in the NBA streets here, hopefully starting tonight. And then Dwayne's had some questions, but Dwayne, don't hesitate. We will answer them. Fire them away. If it's about a different position, we'll go back and answer your question when we hit that position. We do appreciate everybody who has tuned in. If you want to hit that like, that share, that subscribe button, it's a free way to support the work we do here over at Fantasy Alarm. It is much, much appreciated. And if you want to test out the Fantasy Alarm All Pro, we got the 7-day free trial going on. You can scan that QR code right up there on the screen or go to fantasyalarm.com/win. If you use promo code Let's Go, that first month after your 7-day free trial is less than $20. That's access to all of the content and tools and Discord access for free for 7 days. You don't get charged first. You get your 7 days and then you get charged. If you don't like it, cancel. That's fine. But as Jacob said here, we're winning a lot of money these days in the NBA. It'll pay for that first month easily in a night. So if you have questions, throw them in the chat. We'll bring them up on screen. We'll get those answered for you here today. Point guard, Cade Cunningham, 97, LaMelo Ball, 95 is really sort of the battle here today, right? LaMelo's getting a little bit more of the ownership. Cade not too far behind. They're obviously similar price tags. This is a slate where there's only two guys 10K or above. It's LeBron and it's Anthony Davis. So, in terms of overall spend ups tonight, and then in the point guard position in general, where do you rank Cunningham and Ball?
I mean, I sent you a lineup. First off, if you watch the preview show, which, for new watchers, we do, we do a preview show Monday through Friday. So tune in every night or every day for that. You and I built with Cade Cunningham, and I think we probably both thought there would be more ownership on him. There really isn't a ton. It's definitely gone up throughout the day, and more people are gravitating towards Cade. But I definitely lean the Cade Cunningham direction over LaMelo Ball. I understand that LaMelo Ball may not have Miles Bridges. There was obviously the downgrade to Bridges today, and that's a very good thing for LaMelo Ball. We can just kind of put that last game away in a faraway place. That was, you said it. There was kind of like a trickle down effect from the comments he made post game into the game where he struggled. So like, I would obviously like playing LaMelo Ball if there's no Miles Bridges, but like Cade Cunningham feels safer. He has the better matchup of the two. Like Detroit is a top 10 defense this year. They're rated 10th in terms of defensive rating. Charlotte is 19th. So, there's a bigger discrepancy there between which team is obviously playing better defensively. And I think when we look at LaMelo Ball, when he first came up, we were like, oh, this guy's going to get a lot of triple doubles. He's going to get he has not rebounded the ball as consistently as I think we thought he would, or even the assists aren't as consistent as what we thought. It's just really, he is a very high volume shooter that can be good peripherally, but it's not always consistent, or at least all three things aren't as consistent, where we're getting that consistency from Cade Cunningham in all three phases. He is great on the glass. He's basically second in terms of potential rebounds per game. He's first in potential assists and first in assists, and he's scoring, right? So I lead Cade in the better matchup over LaMelo Ball. And, at the end of the day, I know Cade's $200 more, but he's also the lesser owned too. And honestly, of the two, and honestly, I'm looking for leverage on a slate like this. If I can find a little bit of leverage with Cade, who's $200 more, I'll take the leverage play and play Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, I like Cade a lot tonight. And again, we built with him this morning, and we weren't sure which direction the ownership was going to go. Seeing him below, LaMelo Ball certainly makes him a bit more appealing. I also like the fact that like Charlotte doesn't really have any rim protection in this game, right? So, there's a good chance of Cade, who gets to the free throw line a decent amount, not having any issues getting to the rim here. So I definitely like Cade. To Mr. TD's comments here, LaMelo was benched. It's not that man was just playing over him. LaMelo was just flat out benched in that game. They talked about it afterwards. They didn't really like basically how he was handling the final possessions in those close games. Thought he was being a little reckless, wasn't necessarily following the plays of the script there, and they took him out and they benched him. I don't foresee this being a nightly occurrence while man is closing over LaMelo Ball. But it does show that they're willing to take him off the floor if he's not staying in line, right? It's a first-year head coach trying to make his mark in the league and gain control over his team. And if LaMelo now back-to-back instances, one with the post-game reporter making comments, being fined, and then, with his effort in play level late in that game, not satisfactory to the level that they wanted, they pulled him off the floor. I wouldn't anticipate that being a thing we can just like count on tonight. So we'll see what happens. And also he says your mic sounds good. Well, we did work on some mic settings with James, so hopefully we have that resolved as well. So
that's the first comment I've got. Go me. I'm having a week here. This is my week.
2 takedowns last night and a good mic day. Celebrate.
And Monday, second on Monday. We're rolling this week, John. We're feeling good. And the most importantly, the mic, right? The most importantly is the mic.
Shout out to what was his name there in our comment section that day? Just giving you all the mic setting rundown. So all right, mid-tier options for us here. Jalen Suggs, 68, Ivy, $6,700. Chris Paul, $6,300 in that mid-tier range. Kente George checking in at 58. We talked spending up. Where are you with the mid-range guys?
Francois. We're looking for our boy Francois in the chat. Salute to you, Francois.
Mm-hmm.
The mid-tier, a little indifferent about Reeves at 72. I posted, I did the Pick'em articles today at Fantasy Alarm, and with this switch from D'Angelo Russell to the bench, LeBron is just dominating the ball. And I think that's why Reeves, who I think is fine-ish, but like we're seeing he's just a little less involved than he was earlier in the year. When I told you, like, coming into the year, Reddick said they want to put Reeves on the ball more and D'Angelo off the ball. Well, now it's just LeBron on the ball and everyone else kind of, it's LeBron, then AD. And then, so a little indifferent about Reeves at 72. I do think that I have mild interest in Jalen Suggs. I know he's been really disappointing lately, especially from when Paolo Banchero first went out. We were like, oh my God, like this is the leap that we were looking for from Jalen Suggs. He just hasn't really made a lot of shots, right? 2 for 6 this is a good 3-point shooter, shooting 30%. 2 for 6, 2 for 7, 1 of 8, 2 of 11.
Yep.
And then he had a 3 for 5. And then before that, 1 of 6, 1 of 6, 1 of 3, 1 of 4, 1 of 5, 1 of 7. Like he has just simply not shot the ball well. And I've talked to you about this basically every time we've had the Lakers on the slate. The Lakers are playing really well because their offense is playing really well. They have Anthony Davis playing the best basketball he's ever played. LeBron looks amazing as, that point forward. And they obviously drafted a sniper, a literal sniper, Mark Wahlberg from the movie Shooter, right?
Yeah.
Like that is who they have next to those two guys.
Connect 4.
But they're not playing great defensively. They're 24th in defensive rating. So there is mild interest in Jalen Suggs. They're obviously a little shorthanded tonight. And they would be down 3 starters if Wendell Carter doesn't play. So I'm mild interest in Suggs in tournaments, who's just going to be completely unowned. Chris Paul is definitely fine. Kente George is definitely fine. Both those guys, I think, have pretty safe floors and pretty, high ceilings. The thing I'd say about Chris Paul, and I sent you this earlier, in almost every scenario where like I'm playing if I just want to get like Spurs exposure, because they have the best matchup on the board against Utah, Chris Paul is not the first guard I go to.
Sure.
It's Stephon Castle, and we'll talk about him the next possession. But I definitely think Chris Paul is more than fine.
The assist numbers are great, right? For the last 5 games here, 11 assists. Starting to see obviously the double-digit scoring kind of tick back up. So if you're getting double doubles with a handful of rebounds out of Chris Paul, and this is definitely a matchup against Utah where he can do it. I definitely think we're getting back to the guy we had at the beginning of the year where he was lighting it up and then he sucked for a little bit, but now he's kind of back to it. So, I'm with you here. I think we'll talk about Castle and ownership. But if you wanted just like a safe floor play that's actually flashed a little upside lately, Paul fits builds tonight for sure.
Agreed.
Working our way down, you have Conte George at $5,800. Again, no Clarkson there. It was like a 23% usage rate without Clarkson on the floor this season, which is fine. Then we had a question on Anthony Black. As I'll ask, he's point guard, shooting guard eligible. No KCP tonight. Played big minutes the last 2 games. Came through 44 and then 29 fantasy points. We talked the 29 fantasy points. Having no rebounds, no steals for a guy that is, giving you a couple of rebounds in a steal game, obviously meant like he kind of had a little bit of a down game there on peripheral stats. So maybe there's room for him. And as you mentioned, Lakers, not really a strong defensive team here. So Black could be in for another good night.
Yeah, and I think we worry about like back-to-backs more with older players, not players second year of their career. So I have no worries about Anthony Black. I projected him at 30 minutes tonight. I think once we got the news that KCP, and I think that might even be on the lighter side. But also like he only has played 30 minutes sparingly, so it's just a safer projection. I think that there's room for an even higher ceiling, especially if he's in the starting lineup. Love Anthony Black, love him in all formats. And I'm just surprised that like he is, there's 20 something people that are higher owned than him, given the price, given the multi-position eligibility, given the fact that he's very, very good on a per minute basis when he's out there. So, I think Anthony Black is a great play, cash, tournaments, whatever. I'm going to fire him up a lot.
Yeah, agreed. Then the other one worth mentioning here, more of a dart throw play, but he's been playing more minutes, is Isaiah Collier. Do you think that they play Collier or Juzang tonight with Clarkson out of the lineup?
I think there's also the Filipowski route they can go and like actually extend Filipowski because he didn't play at all in the fourth quarter the other day. They could also play like Eubanks a little bit down the stretch and stuff. They've been playing Juzang and Collier. Collier played a bunch. Juzang had 2 long shifts, second and fourth quarter the other day. Filipowski played the whole fourth where he barely played the third is what it was. And Eubanks played basically the entire third. I think that Filipowski is like the priority of like the guys that get extended. Just given what we saw, like Clarkson got taken out of that game midway through the fourth, and he has the injury that he's been dealing with. And he never returned, and that was the first time we saw Filipowski basically close. So I think Collier is definitely fine. I don't like that he didn't play the fourth quarter last game. When the game prior he played the entire fourth quarter. That's just Will Hardy in a nutshell, right? Guy plays the entire fourth one game and then plays no minutes in the fourth the next. Like Will Hardy is just a crazy person when it comes to rotations, and we've seen that repeatedly. So I think they drafted Collier in the first round. He's a solid prospect with like some upside, and we saw it especially with the passing in the Clippers game. But
he's been extended twice. One of those times against San Antonio, played 25 minutes. He had 24 fantasy points, 7, 4, 6, and 4. 26 minutes against the Clippers, 4, 3, 8, 2 steals, 22 fantasy points. So the 2 times this year he's played over 20 minutes, he's given you 22 and 24 fantasy points. I don't disagree that like Filipowski probably sees more minutes, but he's a guy that's already starting for them and playing. Right. There's somebody that's going to need to come off the bench and take on the 30 minutes, even if it's 25 minutes that Clarkson was playing, if you gave another 5 or so to Filipowski kind of in their rotation. So, but as you mentioned, Collier's been getting some, and we've been getting some as well from Juzag. So got that. Jim, yeah, we'll give you a core 4 at the end of the show. We build a lineup. You'll get our core there. Better combo, Cunningham and LeBron, or Cunningham and RJ Barrett? Cunningham and LeBron here, Anthony. I'd roll that out tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's possibly a discussion to be had if Scottie doesn't play.
Okay.
I mean, we've seen Barrett. I understand it's LeBron. I also, we know that Barrett has a better matchup than LeBron has tonight.
Yeah, obviously from a pace perspective, Minnesota is obviously a good team. I imagine Barrett would see a lot of McDaniels, in this game.
Yeah, so. for sure. Also, so was Boston, and I mean, he just, again, if when there's been no Scottie, regardless of, I mean, we got 48 shots the last 2 games that also include 19 rebounds and 20 assists over that span. So sure. He just has the ball constantly in that specific scenario.
Sure. I would still lean Cunningham and LeBron over RJ there. And then Albert popping in saying hello to you, Albert there. Shooting guard, Anthony Edwards is $9,600. You want to talk about leverage in a tournament? Nobody's playing Anthony Edwards in terms of the top spend ups here tonight. Coming in is actually his most recent ownership. He got a little bit of a bump, but still the lowest of the guys that are 9K and over. So
yeah, and this is like, because the peripheral stats have been so down, it makes you wonder, like, if the 3-point volume that he is taking right now is because the way the league's trending, he's working on things in the regular season, because like he is one of the best players in the league at getting to the rim and or wherever he wants in like the mid range, and he's just taking boatloads of threes. And I think that obviously hurts like his overall upside if we're just not getting to the free throw line as much as we know he can. But there's obviously a very, very high ceiling on Anthony Edwards, as you mentioned. I mean, he has the ultimate green light. He can score 50 actual. And this is a great, great, great spot. Toronto 26th in defensive rating this year. 14th in pace is a little bit of a pace of spot from Minnesota. So, yeah, I mean, if you get to Edwards, you'll have him super low owned. Would I rank him above like Cade? No. Would I rank him ahead of LeBron? I think it's close, but no. Davis, no. So he's still 4th amongst the spend ups.
Ahead of LaMelo for you?
Probably not ahead of LaMelo either. So it's just like,
but he's the lowest of the 5K, 9K and up ranked guys in terms of ownership. So, and again, I showed you, we have the consistency tool over at Fantasy Alarm. You can check that out. At this price point, he's only gone 5X like 2 times, and he's never gone above, never been above 6X at this price point. So you really need that ceiling scoring game, and hopefully he comes through with some of the peripheral stats there. Calvin, any Jaden Ivey love? We do like some Jaden Ivey here today. $6,700. We've talked about it, right? He's getting some more consistent playing time this year. It's allowed him to find good spots. He had a good matchup against Washington, 47. Faced Miami, 8 of 18, 41. A couple of duds, obviously, are surrounding that. He's still a bit of an inconsistent player at times, but on this slate, again, I don't mind getting to some Jaden Ivey tonight.
I think Detroit as a whole, and based on the lineups that we shared with each other earlier today, I would say you might be in line with this thought too. I think Detroit is the most undervalued team on the slate. I think they have as much upside or greater than like any other team on the slate, because you have a superstar point guard, you have a very talented shooting guard that has gone for 40 twice in his last 4 games. And you mentioned the inconsistency is, mixed in there, but he's gone for 40 twice in 4 games. And then you have a center who, just grabbed 48 rebounds in a game. So I think Detroit overall is super, super, super. I mean, they're low, and Jaden Ivey's not even 10% rostered today.
I said everybody's just jamming in this Utah San Antonio game on a 4-game slate, which makes, we talk about all the time on small slates, there's a lot of high concentrated ownership on the chalk because there's not many players to pick from. So if you want to really be different on this slate, like again, nobody is really getting to too many of the Pistons here. You mentioned Ivy. Ivy's ownership is sitting at
less than 10%.
So where? Yeah, I'm like scrolling. Like, where is he on this list here? Trying to quickly read through. Yeah, he is 9%. So you're getting a really good value there on him. So Grady Dick is there. You know, again, if Scottie Barnes comes back, I'm probably a little less interested. I wasn't really interested on the preview show. I still kind of maintain that I'm not really interested. Outside of the one game that he had here against Milwaukee, which was really just aided by his ability to get to the free throw line, has not really been that good ever since, you know, the beginning of November. So not a spot I'm looking necessarily to get back to there. Colin Sexton, going back to chalk, right? He is the highest projected rostered player on the slate. So,
terrifying news.
Yeah, I mean, we assume he's going to play over 30 minutes. He played 32 against the Lakers. He has the highest usage rate on the team without Jordan Clarkson on the floor, 27%. So there's a lot to like about Colin Sexton here. Price, now also very solid. So I think all of that kind of said, you're almost forced into playing him. Like, this isn't like a comfortable fade for me just because he's only $5,400.
I mean, I'm for sure interested. He is a high usage player. The minutes have definitely been more consistent lately. The peripheral stats have just sucked. Playing with John Collins has sucked for rebounds. Playing with a true point guard in Keontae George and even like extended with Jordan Clarkson has sucked, but Jordan Clarkson's not there. The 2 games he missed earlier, Clarkson, the Denver game, they got torched. Sexton did nothing, but he missed the Chicago game. Sexton took 18 shots. That was a season high. And he had 24 points, also a season high. So I think you could take something from that game and run with it. 34 minutes, season high, 18 shots, season high, 24 minutes, season high in one of the 2 games without Jordan Clarkson this year.
Yeah. And it's kind of where I'm kind of rolling with it as well at $5,400. Calvin said, am I playing Caden Suggs or Ant and Ivy? Well, we already said the ownership play. No one's on. Like Anthony Edwards is the least owned of the top guys, and Ivy no one's playing on. So if you want no ownership, Anthony and Ivy would be your play. Gives you the contrarian play to Cade too. If people are playing Cade, you get Ivy, and if Ivy outscores Cade Cunningham, like you're going to have a higher percentage on the field there. So what do you lean here, Cade and Suggs or Edwards and Ivy?
The first pairing.
Okay, Cade and Suggs. I agree. I would prefer to play Cade and Suggs as well, but I get the tournament appeal to that one there. Our Mitchell and Agbaji contingent on the Barnes news? Asked Jacob.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because you said it on the pre-show, like Scottie Barnes is not injured with like this. He had an eye injury. So, if he comes back, it's likely close to full. And now the ball is going to be in 2 people's hands and everything else is going to flow. And then we don't know what Pirtle's going to do. So they've dropped far, far, far down on the priority list in terms of, offensive output.
FanDuel question for Michael here. LaMelo 94, Anthony Edwards at 87.
I really like that price. $8,700 for Ant.
And I think actually Anthony Edwards is one of the highest rostered FanDuel plays today.
I'm going to say Ant at 87.
Edwards is the second highest rostered player on FanDuel today. Chris Paul actually the highest over on FanDuel.
I mean, it's a great spot for Minnesota. And things only get better if they're like, hypothetically, DiVincenzo and Conley sit.
Yeah, like
right?
Point guard Anthony Edwards maybe tonight. I know NEW would enter the lineup, but
I mean, NEW started and had 3 assists last week, right?
Yeah.
It's not like there was just like, NEW is gonna
run Randall runs the offense a bit more. Right?
Yeah, I mean it would be obviously. I just lean Edwards. I think that there's especially at that price. I mean, he's $1,000 less on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings.
Yeah. Thoughts on Malachi Branham here? Not really playing, man. It's kind of hard to like.
He plays basketball for the Spurs, or he's active.
I would have liked to have seen him play more minutes against the Thunder when they had the same situation going on. So
yeah, if Chris Paul was out, that'd probably be something different. But Chris Paul's playing. So.
Agreed. And now we can get to my guy. We talked obviously Sexton there at 54. Dalton Knecht is 51. Anthony wants to know, is Dalton Knecht legit? I do think so. I think he is legit. I will say this is obviously a tough matchup from all the reasons we've talked about before. Orlando, slow-paced team, good defensively. I don't think he's going to go hit 9 threes again, but he has hit at least 5 in 3 of the last 4. Defenses also have to focus on LeBron and on Anthony Davis a little bit more, and they have to help towards those two players when they tend to play help defense. That leaves somebody open because they're doubling or leaning and slanting to one guy. And as we saw from Dalton Knecht, he can get a shot off pretty quickly. So I think this is a good test, as Doug says here. If he performs well against Orlando, yes, he is legit. I agree with that kind of statement here. I'm also willing to pay to see it. $5,100 is not keeping me off Dalton Knecht, assuming he is still in the lineup, right? He's got to be starting, I think, for me. We don't know the Hachimura status quite yet, I don't believe, right? We haven't gotten that news out because they're 10:30 start time. We also, you and I think that even if Hachimura comes back, it's Cam Reddish that goes to the bench and Knecht would start, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of like traditionalists, and I don't think JJ Redick is that, but like a lot of traditionalists, you always hear coaches be like, a guy doesn't lose his job because he was hurt, right? That's like traditional coach think. I don't think JJ Redick is traditional coach think. But I am still like teetering with the idea that Dalton Knecht would come off the bench because I do think Rui is starting, and I do think that they like Cam Reddish starting because he's good defensively. We'll see though. I mean, I could obviously be way off. Dalton Knecht scored 37 points in a game. So,
he had 9 threes. And I said, when I went on my long rant, it was like, this is the style of offense and play that Redick has said he wanted to play. And if they have a guy this hot, I can't imagine they just like disrupt what they have going on during a 5-game winning streak now, 4 since he started. So, little different. Even, I mean, they have a longer win streak, 6 games there. So, Anthony, we don't know if Bridges and Barnes are in yet. We'll get hopefully that news within the next hour, to get that ready to go. So I do like Dalton Knecht here. I would play Sexton. And then we have Malik Beasley, who even with Tim Hardaway Jr. back, still played 30 minutes, didn't, again, shut the lights out. We've seen Malik Beasley go on these streaks before. When he was on Utah, he went on these wild weeks where he just didn't miss a bucket. $5,200. Are you comfortable with him coming off the bench?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to play him, right? It doesn't look like anyone's going to play him. So if you end up going there, you're also at that price, you're fading some really popular names.
You're fading the popular name, right? Sexton. You're fading Sexton, basically.
And Stephon Castle, who's 4,900. So Champagne's going to get a lot of ownership. So like in most scenarios, I'm probably just playing Stephon Castle at shooting guard, so I'm good with Beasley in a tournament. He'll be super low.
For sure. Obviously the offensive upside for Castle could be a little bit greater if he was to hit some more shots. Obviously we you and I, we were basically watching that Thunder game live because I was losing my mind that OKC was losing. But then we also were just talking about the assists prop that Castle had. I was like, it's like 4.5. Like, should we get there? And then he went like bing, 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 like 3 straight assists on like Keldon Johnson threes. And I'm like, oh, well, there was the over. And he ended up with 8. So if he's going to start, becoming more of a guy that can fill out the stat sheet, maybe the scoring comes. He had 22 actual here in this game against the Lakers. He played 33 minutes. You talk about how poor the Lakers are defensively. Love the 35 minutes against OKC. This is a game where he's not going to face tough defensive matchup. He had 23 actual in 35 minutes in the same spot earlier this season. So I'm kind of with you, and so is the field. Will Ball get benched again? Literally impossible to know, Anthony. I wouldn't bench him if I was the head coach, especially if I put him in my DFS lineup that night. But impossible knowing. Doug, listen, that's my thing too. I think they would play Knecht over Reddish. Also, Jim will get on Bassey when we hit center. Castle Champagne, we'll talk about a small forward. Black we've hit on. THJ is here. He did play 30 minutes. He went 1 of 10 and 0 rate. He's obviously a better shooter than that. Is he in a player pool for you tonight?
I will. It depends on like what happens with some value. Like we'll know early if Bridges plays. If Bridges is out, then no, he's not, because I'll just pivot to other Charlotte value.
Small forward. You have LeBron James, $10,100. You got Franz Wagner at 91. You got RJ Barrett at 89. You're deciding between the three here. We finally had a down game from Wagner, and only because he just didn't shoot as much, right? Like the rest of the numbers were fine. He only took 11 shots, though, after taking 24, 23, 24, 25. So
who are you talking about?
Wagner?
Who?
Wagner?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's what I said.
Yeah. Oh, no. Don't do this again.
That's what I said.
Don't do it again. Don't do it again.
Regardless of the show delay, what are your thoughts on here, this matchup against the Lakers? Because obviously the Clippers clamped down on them last night.
I think I actually would rank, I'll be a little contrarian here. I'm going to rank Franz number 1 over LeBron tonight. I like LeBron, but I like the Magic quite a bit. Again, Lakers are not good defensively. I know this is a tough back-to-back for Orlando, but it's, they're traveling from one arena to another in LA. So, it's not like they changed hotel rooms or they traveled different cities and whatnot. And still at the end of the day, like the Magic are even more shorthanded than they were yesterday. No KCP. He's been super, super elite just baseline for Franz Wagner this year, 30.5% usage rate, and has 1.3 fantasy points per minute. Now you're taking Paolo, you're taking KCP, and you're potentially taking Wendell Carter Jr. off the floor. He is just in a very, very high usage player, really good fantasy producer. So I like Franz. I like the peripheral stats. There's no way he's taking 11 shots in this spot. The Lakers do not have the same perimeter defenders outside of Cam Reddish to stay in front of Wagner. So Wagner 1, LeBron 2, Barrett 3 for me. I would reconsider the rankings if Scottie is ruled out. You're not wrong about the Jaden McDaniels point, but I would still not have a problem playing a guy that's just going to have the ball in his hands the whole time.
Sure. Work our way down the list. Lauri Markkanen, Brandon Miller, 69. Those are two guys that we've kind of keyed in lately. We talked Miller the other night. We said if he hits his shots, he can go out there and win a tournament for you. He was in many winning lineups the other night, 47 fantasy points, went 11 of 17 and 5 of 9. And as we talked about, no one's really playing Charlotte. That may change if Bridges gets ruled out. Maybe we see some people gravitate a little bit towards Miller here. If you had to pick between Lauri and Miller tonight, where would you lean?
I'd lean Markkanen, but like I understand the pivot. I liked Markkanen the other day. I think the price was too cheap. Now you're removing Jordan Clarkson from the floor. A guy who dominates usage. And if you think about Markkanen's rotations, Markkanen's an early sub, right? Early sub, gets a second shift late in the first quarter. Well, he's then playing with Jordan Clarkson in that instance. If he's not playing with Jordan Clarkson and now instead he's playing with Isaiah Collier as his running mate, or if he's playing with potentially like Keontae George, who's still like a really good passer, I think that benefits Markkanen a lot. So I'd lean Markkanen. Maybe my opinion will change if, Brandon Miller is playing without Miles Bridges, because then it's just two-man show who can get up more shots between Bridges and Ball. But right now I lean Lauri Markkanen.
Sure. Working our way down the list, you have Keldon Johnson here at $5,300. Guy went out, knocked down 6 threes in 29 minutes against OKC. Basically, sealed the fate there for the Thunder in that game. They made a late run, but too much to overcome. Was it like 13-0 run out of halftime? I think it was. And like Keldon basically brought him into that halftime, knocking down those threes. What are we thinking here against Utah earlier this season? He had 34 fantasy points playing 30 minutes in that game.
I mean, he's a good scorer. It really bothers me that like even in a game like that, he just can't get more than 29 minutes. Like we're making every shot imaginable for Keldon Johnson. 29 minutes. Without Wemby and Vassell this year, about a one fantasy point per minute guy, 23.5 almost percent usage rate. Super solid. It's a 3% usage bump, third on the team. So yeah, I mean, it's good. 5,300 is a good price. But even in like that scenario, right? No Wemby, no Vassell, 29 minutes in a game they won. In a game he was automatic from three. So if you're good with the minutes and if you're good with the matchup, then yeah, I mean, fire him up. Because it's seemingly where he's capped, but maybe we get extended if he keeps making shots.
Sure. Below them is his teammate. You have Champagny here at 46, and you have Barnes at 44. Again, Champagny's been pretty safe all season long. The minutes have been pretty good for him for the most part. He's giving you that 24, 25 fantasy points on average here. Good at filling up the stat sheet. Rebounding's been fine. Double-digit actual points as well. And then good old Harry Barnes, another reason that they went out and beat the Thunder the other night. 6 of 13, 3 of 7, 20 actual points for him here. It's a spot where tough to trust the consistency with Harry Barnes, but clearly he can still do it if given opportunities, right?
Oh boy, this one's tough because Champagny is clearly going to be higher rostered. He's one of the 5 highest rostered players of the slate, right? And he's the better fantasy point per minute guy. I mean, you look without Wemby, without Vassell, 0.85 fantasy points per minute for Julian Champagny. You look at Harrison Barnes, 0.68 fantasy points per minute. So, like, just from that, it's like, why would I ever play Harrison Barnes, right? Harrison Barnes is not rostered today. Harrison Barnes, despite the last game he played, is nearly single-digit rostership. And, the minutes, I think, are going to be a little inconsistent. Excuse me. Sorry, I had a little sneeze right there. Bad allergy day today, John. Bad allergy day today. The minutes are inconsistent, but without those guys, I mean, he took a lot of shots, more than we've seen most of the year.
Yeah.
If we're just talking like just a way to get different on a slate in a spot that you want exposure to, there's always ways. And I think Harrison Barnes is not an option. I have sat here on the airwaves and disrespected Harrison Barnes for years, calling him white bread, right? He is boring. He is just a turkey sandwich with cheese, not even mayonnaise. You just, that's what it is. He doesn't do anything exciting. But like on the nights where he spaces the floor well and there's guys out and he's rebounding well, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not. 8 rebounds in the game Wemby's not there when he's extended 32 minutes. There's an ownership discrepancy that I'm at least interested in taking advantage of.
Sure. Official news: Scottie Barnes is in tonight, so we will see how that impacts ownership. Where maybe people want to go or consider with Scottie Barnes now that he is available to play. He is point guard only on
DraftKings. It sucks. The position eligibility sucks.
Do you have any interest in Scottie Barnes now that he is active tonight?
You can. It's fine. I mean, the positional eligibility sucks. 8,700 is too cheap for the ceiling, but we don't know what the minutes are going to be, so.
We'll see. I'm sure we'll get some reporting on if there are any limitations here, but obviously he had 61 fantasy points in the game where he got injured there. So, any other small forwards you want to discuss?
NAW is contingent on injury news. If NAW is starting, then definitely interest. Just throwing this out there. Canadian national.
Sure.
Nickeil Alexander-Walker plays for the Canadian national team. So, not a big narrative guy, but he would be back in Toronto. Cody Martin, rather. He's been pretty good this year for Charlotte. We don't know the Miles Bridges news, but if Miles Bridges were to sit, this is another player that could get extended. They're kind of hurt, right? Like they're kind of hurt. He's in their rotation already playing, low to mid 20s minutes. This could be a situation where no Bridges, maybe Martin's the one starting. Saloon could be the one starting. We've seen him in the starting lineup before, but they don't extend him. Like they just keep him kind of
15 minutes, right? 20
minutes max, 20 max. So I think if we get a situation, point guard, small forward eligibility, right? That is super, super quality positional stuff. So yeah. So if Bridges is out, definitely some Cody Martin.
Yeah, I brought him up just because he played 15 minutes last game. Obviously, earlier this year, he was much more in the rotation. If there is now no Clarkson, maybe he re-enters the rotation a little bit. So just a complete dart. If you're making multiple lineups tonight on a short slate, you get me playing Georges Niang last night at 5%. Nobody played him because he didn't start, and all of a sudden he goes for 30 because he gets going a little bit. So power forward. We've talked a lot of these guys already here. Anthony said it's LeBron a must play. You had Wagner ranked over him, so must play not necessarily.
What's a huge, John?
I know. Scottie Barnes will start and have a minutes limit Thursday per coach.
I'm telling you right now, I would say outside of Pirtle, Toronto is like unplayable with that minutes limit. I mean, they're basically unplayable.
I agree. Anthony asked too, is Pirtle safe tonight against Gobert?
I think Pirtle's.
I don't know if you've ever seen what Nikola Jokic has done against Rudy Gobert. But we have Jokic light right now with not even light really, just same.
Just Jakob Jokic.
No assists, but we got Jakob Jokic right now. These last couple of games here, I'm fine going Jakob Pirtle. We'll get to center here in a second because you do mention another center here that we do want to play as well. Colin, we did mention Anthony Black earlier. Definitely in on Anthony Black here tonight with no KCP. All right, power forward. You got Randall, someone we haven't discussed yet at 83. John Collins at 72. We'll see if Bridges is in or not. If he is in, I definitely like him at 63 and Toby at 62. So break down this quad of power forwards for us.
Yeah, I think Randall's fine. We finally got the ceiling. I mean, you and I have been asking for the ceiling forever. We have not gotten – Julius Randle has been like the one player this year that just hasn't gotten a price decrease, right? Like we have not gotten any leeway on his price. Finally got the ceiling. You can definitely go back to the well with Julius Randle, who shot the ball really well last game. Peripheral stats were good. Great matchup. So if you want to play Randle, by all means. I think John Collins is incredibly interesting tonight. And not a lot of people getting there. He leads the team when Jordan Clarkson and Walker Kessler are off the floor in usage rate. 30% usage rate for John Collins.
We have him as the 13th highest rostered projected player tonight. Well, Laurie is the second highest projected rostered player. So if you wanted to pivot, right? And here's the question right here. Laurie and Collins are 400 difference, and he leans. Ownership is playing Laurie. If on a small slate, you want to get a little different tonight, I think Collins is certainly an interesting spot here. I'm looking on FanDuel, actually. Let's see. Difference, FanDuel. Where's John Collins at over on FanDuel? John Collins. So he is 16. So definitely a little bit closer ownership on FanDuel, about a 4% difference over there. Do you have if you had to pick one of Collins or Mark? I mean, Collins has a higher usage rate, but on FanDuel, if you're picking one, where would you prefer to go, Collins or Laurie?
I mean, it's been a pretty bad year for Markkanen in general. I think Markkanen is the higher upside scorer. Dude, no Clarkson, no Walker Kessler this year. 30% usage rate, 1.47 fantasy points per minute for John Collins. You get that plus the ownership discount. I would just simply play John Collins over.
Yeah, it's almost Markkanen. A 50% ownership dip between Marketing and Collins on DraftKings tonight. So, again, that's a big difference, right? If he goes for 45 and Collins goes for 35, those 10 points can be enough to make you cash or make you win outright. So, we're also, kind of Collins marks here. We've been high on John Collins now for a few seasons. If you go to my Pickett, my most bet player, John Collins. So, like we're out there. So I like Collins a lot at the price as well. Again, Bridges, though. I mean, Bridges has been really good. If he can play tonight, the minutes are good. He just didn't give you the usual secondary stats, but the scoring was good. We like Charlotte Detroit as a game tonight, so certainly could get there. And then Tobias has been as safe can be for most of this season.
Excluding just last game. He has been super. Yeah. I mean, Bridges is definitely solid. Toby is definitely a fine last piece in. No objections to either. No strong takes on either. Don't love that Bridges was down because this has been
downgraded. Yeah,
the knee again, right? It's the soreness has been kind of a thing for a while. So don't love that the knee is bothering him. Don't love that he's downgraded. So not good trends there for Miles Bridges.
Yeah, I agree. Nas Reed in tournaments, if you want to get there at 53, you certainly can. We've talked a lot of these other guys. Grant Williams has been really good starting, and now there may not be Bridges as well. I mean, we dogged this guy for fair reasons, right? He earns his dogging, but
he does.
He's been good, right? And as we talked about it this morning, you were like, well, I don't know if he's going to be able to keep shooting like this. No, he can. This is what he's been doing for 4 years now. He developed into a shooter to basically become an NBA player on the Boston Celtics. 45% and 37% is basically where his career marks are. So what he's doing shooting wise, all going to stay. What you get, I guess, defensively and on the glass can be inconsistent. And tonight, Jalen Durant's going to be out there just gobbling up every board. So, we'll see what Williams does, but $5K, it's a good spot. He gave you 7X the other night at that price.
Yeah, I am very fine. Just fine with me. Fine. He's a good peripheral stat guy that's been scoring too. So he's getting you there. The ownership's there. It's a fine play. I think in a tournament, I might play Filipowski over him. Just to get different with ownership. And I don't think many people
really are playing Grant though either, right?
No, Grant's getting some good ownership.
Yeah, a little bit, 17% on the latest update there.
And Filipowski's down about 10%. I think there's something to be said about early foul trouble for Filipowski and then closing that fourth quarter over Jordan Clarkson. I think just kind of says okay, they are okay going with him down the stretch of a game. It's very inconsistent because it is Will Hardy, but obviously three players that initially started or came off the bench in Hendricks, Clarkson, and Kessler are not there. So I'd be okay with Filipowski as a pivot too.
In Grant Williams' mind, he is baby Draymond. He has a long way to go to being Draymond Green. His getting your under skin and questionable plays, that's definitely Draymond there. But I mean, Draymond was a defensive player of the year, right? Grant is a good defense, but we're not getting blocks and steals like we were getting out of Draymond during his prime out of Grant Williams there. I don't know. Hard to know what Isaac's going to happen here. Can't really go there. Anything else at power forward?
Not really. There is we had the comment that Potent Perspectives talked about Cole Anthony.
Yeah.
There's obviously a chance Cole Anthony enters the rotation. I think Jet Howard is probably the guy that plays over Cole Anthony. That would be my guess.
Isn't it wild this dude got iced? I mean,
he's straight up
a legitimate scorer.
Yeah, he's just iced. So unless we were told that Cole Anthony was going to play on the second leg of a back-to-back, I don't think it's possible to unless you're playing large field stuff and you're MMEing to even have exposure there, because it's just there's a zero I mean, he's played 6 minutes in 2 games. He hasn't played more than 5 minutes in the last 4 games. So I personally think Jet Howard would be the guy that gets the run. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, but just commenting there on like Orlando stuff. Isaac did play the 20 minutes last night, 22 minutes. Did play 22 minutes on the second leg of a back-to-back last week as well. So, maybe there's more room for him. What do you think, John? I'll ask like this. Another just magic question. If let's say Isaac, we don't think Isaac gets extended. They've given Tristan da Silva 26 minutes in back-to-back games. I'm not saying he's been great. He really hasn't been very good at all. But let's say we get late scratch Jonathan Isaac. Is there a path to da Silva? I mean, there's probably a path to da Silva playing 30 plus minutes tonight.
Da Silva's actually been a pretty decent rebounder at times this season as well, when kind of being giving extended options. I think it's possible. I would like to know what Wendell Carter's deal is too.
Sure. That's obviously a fair point, because they've done the Goga, they've done like the double big thing in the past too, with Goga and Wendell Carter starting. So yeah, that's a good point.
With Scott back to be Fade Barrett, probably at the price point. Yeah. But again, I mean, RJ's Barnes is listed as a point guard, and we kind of mock that, but we do see a lot of point Scottie, in years past. He could run the offense and facilitate, and RJ's a great slasher, and Barrett could go out there and have great, great offensive upside. But again, I wasn't really in on RJ Barrett tonight anyway, so it's probably still a fade for me. Do you think you have to have one or LeBron or AD? He's kind of scaring me. Grande and I had this exact conversation today. That game starts at 10:30 tonight. You don't have it. You're sitting there and you're going to watch someone that might go for 50 or 60 fantasy points tonight. You're just hoping you're not going to get chased down. So, could be there. Isaac's been playing back-to-backs, get more run. Listen, no bigger fans than Isaac here than us. It's just whether or not his body holds up is the big question. Plus, again, if Wendell Carter does come back, that may cut into a little bit of the Isaac minutes. They could, unless they just completely ice out Goga,
which they do almost. I mean, they
all the time, right? Like
we've seen it a couple of years now, right? Like Goga, I've wanted Goga traded to a team that will utilize him, because it's like, but I get why they keep him. They know Wendell Carter's getting hurt at some point.
All right, let's get the center here. We got a couple more minutes in the show, but we do appreciate everybody who has tuned in. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, we go live every day at 5 p.m. Eastern time to break down the slate. We do a preview show, gets released around 10 o'clock at night as well. So you get notified when that gets published. So hit that subscribe, hit that like, that share button. We appreciate all of you each and every day who come and support us here. We do this for all of you. Center position. Anthony Davis is 11-1. Never have any qualms about Anthony Davis on a slate. If you want to get there, you can fit him in your lineup. Yeah, go ahead. Fit him in your lineup. Do you have any issues with AD here?
No,
I don't either. Guys we haven't talked about, we got Pearl, 81.
Yeah, I mean, dude's been great. Like, Scottie Barnes is a very good rebounder. Scottie Barnes is a good passer. He's a good scorer. Jakob Poeltl's better at rebounding and has been scoring like a monster. And if there's going to be like a hard limit on Barnes where he's only playing mid-20s, I do think Jakob Poeltl makes sense. Like, Rudy Gobert is a really good defender. Also, we overstate those things all the time. We talk about it all the time. Get Jakob Poeltl in actions, get Gobert in actions, and then suddenly he's switched on to much smaller guys all the time. So I think Poeltl's perfectly fine at 81. Not a priority for me, but definitely in play in tournaments.
Sure, I agree with you. Durant is where we want to go tonight, and we were talking a lot about this on the preview show, and kind of, not getting as much ownership as we thought he would.
Yes.
A lot of people are playing Zach Collins, who we'll talk about. Zach Collins being ruled in, obviously, I think impacted that a little bit because everybody's playing Bassey earlier. Some people are still playing Bassey tonight, even with Collins ruled in. Durant coming back, 15 points, 22 rebounds against Chicago. He was the mega chalk against Charlotte earlier this year, and he got hurt and played 8 minutes. We know the rebounding's legit. We know Charlotte doesn't have anybody to play really a center position. Maybe they give Diabate more minutes tonight because they need someone just to compete on the glass. which is something we can talk about as a dart throw. But when you and I talked this morning and nothing has really changed for us, like we're finding ways to play Duren, especially when he's at like 13%.
Yeah. And, like Jalen Duren provides a pivot option off of someone like Zach Collins, who's going to be more popular. I get it. Zach Collins is a good play in his own right. He's a very good fantasy producer. But so is Jalen Duren going up against Grant Williams, who's 6'6", and there's no real size in Charlotte, like you mentioned, outside of Diabate. So I think Jalen Duren's an excellent tournament play at kind of low ownership. And that kind of brings me to like back full circle to the point I made about Detroit earlier. Like I think Detroit is just a great team to target because they're not getting a lot of ownership and have such a great matchup overall. We just need Jalen Duren to stay out of foul trouble. Point blank, stay out of foul trouble. 30 minutes is in the cards, obviously, and he's just super, super good on the glass, both sides of the floor, offense and defense, and have to love the 13 shots, the most shots he's taken in any game. So. And on the second leg of a back-to-back after only playing 18 minutes.
And this is, I mean, again, he's not like the best defensive center, but like if he's going to have a lot of size on this front court that Charlotte's going to put out there, it just maybe increases the shot blocking upside, right? Like not having to deal with another guy that's like a 7-footer, instead of 6'8" Grant Williams down there trying to post them up, can use that length maybe to block some shots. So I like it. But as we talked about, I mean, Collins for a lot of obvious reasons is a really good play tonight.
Yes.
Going up against Utah, great fantasy point per minute guy, aggressive, takes shots, scores really well. You see the blocks there, you see the steals. I guess our like lone thing to be worried about or so is just like they do also play Bassey. Bassey's played 20 minutes in each of the last 2 games. It seems like that's just sort of the rotation they're going to do. So I don't think there's like 35-minute upside for Zach Collins tonight. I think that's, you just kind of have to put it in perspective. Like he might just play the 26, 25 in that range and Bassey will play 20.
Yeah. And there's always a chance, like if Utah goes small with John Collins, that like they're both off the floor at first stretches, right? You have no Bassey, no Collins, and you're just seeing small ball lineups from both teams because Collins is obviously pretty tough to be on the perimeter. So I think, Collins is a great play, or a really solid play. Probably my second favorite Spurs center, which is unfortunate because I really like Zach Collins per minute. But Bassey's been great the last 2 games. Really, really, really good rebounder. Like super good rebounder when he gets minutes. Yeah. So that's the one thing about like players like him that come off the bench and are just super energetic, put back city offensively, $4,000 against a bad Utah team. It is pretty good chalk because that there's potentially 20 minutes in the cards for Charles Bassey here. So I like Collins. I do like Bassey per minute or because of his salary a little bit better.
Yep. Michael wants to know McDaniels or Naz Reid here tonight. Obviously, McDaniel starts. Naz comes off the bench. This matchup against Toronto here.
McDaniels is probably going to guard Scottie, would be my guess now. I'll go Naz Reid. This feels like this is a good Naz Reid spot. Good Naz Reid spot. He loves bad teams. He loves facing bad teams.
Sure. Thoughts on Ivy Edgin? We talked about that one a little bit earlier in the show. We're definitely in on him. No one's playing him. I think he can be a good pivot off of Cade if you want to go in that direction tonight. If you're not playing Cade, but you want to get that game, maybe you're going LaMelo Ball and you get Ivy in your lineup as that exposure. That's totally fine. Again, smaller player pools. You want guys at high ceilings. He's even you 40 in 2 of the last 4. So definitely a spot to get him in. All right, let's get our lineup built here. First plugs in. We're going to go probably Castle, right?
Yep.
And what do we think? Castle and Sexton. Yeah. Sexton, Anthony Black.
Rudy Gobert getting a lot of ownership tonight.
Yeah, he feels safe tonight. I think that helps on a small slate too. I don't think we're gonna get like a massive ceiling game out of Rudy Gobert, but if he gives you 35, it's kind of like 5x on a slate like this.
He just plays so many minutes.
So if we play Sexton, Castle, and Black, it doesn't give it gives us just the utility to play a Cunningham, a Ball, an Edwards. Does Black have small forward eligibility? Nope.
No, they
took it away, right?
Yeah, it was point guard small forward, which was great. But
so that leaves us with the next question then. Where do we go?
Who's your favorite spend up? You and I have differing opinions, I think, on the Lakers. I'm obviously not against playing the Lakers. But I started my build today with LeBron, and I've pivoted since to Franz. That's where I went.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like Wagner here. Wagner. Say it correctly. We like John Collins as a pivot off of Laurie tonight.
Yep.
So that's 72 per play with 2 forwards and a util to go.
If you played Franz in the util or in the in your forward spot,
6,300. We get another value. You get Champagny, probably.
If you do Champagny, just switch him and Franz because there's always that 10-30 double back-to-back risk that Miles Bridges ruled out.
All right. So does that make us go Grant then here at forward? Would you go?
I mean, that obviously just puts Charlotte in play more. I mean, right? There's no Richards.
Or would you do Miller now?
There's, I think, multiple paths. I think Cody Martin is in play. I think LaMelo Ball is definitely in play. Brandon Miller.
We're running out of sort of spots, right? A 1900 only gets us 83. Would get us Randall if we wanted to move up at center.
So look, just some numbers here, John.
Sure.
Okay, LaMelo Ball, no Bridges, no Richards this year.
Okay,
150-minute sample, 44% usage rate, plus 6% bump, 1.6 fantasy points per minute. Brandon Miller is second on the team usage, about 25%. Well, Trey Man, but amongst the starters, Brandon Miller, 25%, 1 fantasy point per minute. Then we start getting into 0.9s.
Sure.
Grant's 0.94, Cody Martin's 0.92, which I think is pretty solid for a guy off the bench. So,
we can't really play everybody here. So I guess
I know. I'm just pointing out Charlotte just becomes more of a. I mean, they're just simply a better play than they were with Bridges in.
Sure. I mean, if we got rid of Wagner there, can go
Brandon Miller.
Miller, small forward. What is that? That's a Brock Purdy update. We got $1,500. So, who would you want to move out? Would you rather play Black or Martin here?
Black, because I think he starts.
Okay. So we got rid of him. That's a $5,300 forward. Brings us to Keldon.
Champagny, any of those Spurs guys.
I mean, Sexton, Castle, Miller, Collins, Duran, Black, Keldon with a LaMelo kicker there. I guess we'd flip these two for your sake.
And you probably just put Anthony Black in the util.
Well, I was gonna put I guess that's true.
Sexton.
Yeah, Sexton. I was like, who do I have there? And that gives us just Anthony Black in the late game. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's, it is what it is. You're also getting LaMelo with 44% usage. So, if that's the spend up we get to.
We'll get the update here. What if LaMelo all of a sudden just booms?
He's he's pretty popular to begin with, right? He was already top 10 in ownership to begin with per the last update. So I imagine that we are going to get a little bit higher. Also, I don't know if he's going to overthrow the value plays of the day, but
yeah. I mean, I would imagine Miller probably gets some more love now too. And it's okay to be a little chalky. I mean, we're being contrarian with Duran here. We're being contrarian with Black, for now as well. So getting a little different in terms of ownership here. Collins obviously a little bit lower roster than the field.
Yep.
The most recent update, Collins is moving, man. I'll get all the updated ownership over on Fantasy Alarm right after today's show. But Collins now up to 25%. So as these updates come through, We are seeing the bumps happen as we get closer to roster lock. So, example lineup. We can obviously get a little different. Our guy Mark, does Seth Curry play basketball anymore? He doesn't. He does.
He is active. He will actively wear a Hornets jersey this evening.
Yeah. Myron, we do like Pirtle. We're good there if you want to go. He's obviously a little bit expensive and no one's on him because the mid-tier centers are getting some love. Again, a lot of people are playing Rudy Gobert on the other side of that matchup tonight on DraftKings. And Zach Collins at 6K is getting a lot of love. So
and Bassey is your
Bassey for the punt. Yeah. He's getting ownership tonight. But Pirtle's been really good. I'll kind of play him until he busts at this point. I think that's kind of where we're at with Jakob Pirtle here. So guys, we do appreciate all of you. Get the rest of the updates in our Discord. We got the 7-day free trial going on. You can scan that QR code or go to FANationAlarm.com/win to get in there in the Discord to get access to all of our DFS content. We'll be back tomorrow. Check out for the preview show tonight, live at 5 tomorrow. Good luck. We'll see you then.